Good morning, everyone. I have a couple tweaks on my live stream settings, so if anything looks out of sync or you can't hear something or it looks weird, just let me know and I will tweak it live. I got OBS open, so thank you guys for helping me kind of troubleshoot stuff and work through things. Good morning to everybody. We've already got a couple members in the chat, Abvo and Mike Wax. Morning to you guys. Today we are going to talk about how to become proficient at iZotope RX Advanced, how to become a monster or a beast, and really amp up your workflow and use it properly. There's a lot of, I get tons of questions about what modules to use and how to use them and how to do things fast. And today we're gonna I'll tell you how to do stuff fast, but I'm really most concerned about quality and making sure that the work I deliver sounds as good as possible. So sometimes you got to go fast, but we're going to dive into quality, doing quality work, and then I'll also show you some shortcuts for stuff. So again, let me know if stuff looks out of sync. I had to do like a crazy amount of delay on my mic. I'm actually not running my mic through Pro Tools anymore. I think I've got it turned off. Yeah, because, I figured if Pro Tools crashes or something, that it'd be good to just have it going into OBS. So it's actually like, I want to say 400 milliseconds of delay, because I also got a capture card. So my camera, my Panasonic GH5 is feeding an HDMI feed into that capture card. So that's why I had to mess with the latency a little bit. So today's, see if I got this. I did not have my mic set up on the letter. Today's stream is brought to you by the letter P. What did I want to do P for? P was for, let's say P is for precision. We're going for precision. It's going to be for other stuff too. Presets, plugins, whatever. P. Brought to you by the letter P. So we are here in Pro Tools. It doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not going to spend a ton of time in Pro Tools. It's really mostly going to be iZotope. But let's look at this class, I guess, stream, whatever you want to call it. Plosives, that's a good one. To become a beast or monster at iZotope, there's like kind of 5 steps. Processing is another good one for P. So first, you need to spend time with this program. And there are, like, iZotope has been out for a while. And it's, like, there's a little bit of pushback against iZotope as a company with their updates and how they kind of charge you for updates. And I understand that. And there's tons of new tools that are out there for doing the same stuff you can do in iZotope. Like there's spectral layers by, I think, Steinberg. There's all kinds of declick and denoise modules. So that's all great. And I'm not going to talk about that stuff because what I use pretty much all day, every day I'm dialogue editing is iZotope. And I've been doing a ton of dialogue editing the past 2 years. Like, that's my main gig. And it's really it's the least understood type of sound editing. And it's the one I get the most questions about. Most people aren't asking me questions about sound design or mixing. They want to know dialogue editing because it's pretty tricky. It's difficult. It's a difficult skill to master. So the first thing you need to do is learn iZotope. Spend time with it. You also need to learn how to read the I think they call it a spectrograph, but let's just call it the display, I guess, depending on which display you use. So let's just look at, let me send something to iZotope first off. We want something that hasn't been cleaned up. So I'll go down here to my AAF. This stuff's pretty good. You will need to use RX Connect for this. So if you don't have that plugin you know, like you're going to have, if you have RX Advanced, you're going to have RX Connect, but its integration is a little different for different programs. So here's some great noise to look at, and how you would, this one doesn't have a ton of dialogue in it, so let me actually pick something that has some dialogue we could look at. What about this one? Okay, this is good. So as you work through your career or hobby of dialogue editing, you'll start to be able to read what's going on in iZotope. You're going to be able to look at this. It's not really a waveform. A waveform is going to, I forget how to change back because I don't use it too much. This is a waveform. You can easily look at this and tell, like, this is dialogue right here. This is maybe dialogue, could be a breath. This is going to be some transient noises. And then if you really blow it up, you can see like the noise floor of stuff. But I don't ever use this view. I'm always in this, which, let's see what they call it. Spectrogram. Yeah, spectrogram, not spectrograph, spectrogram. So the waveform view might be good for, you know, some stuff, but really you can see all that with the advantage of also seeing the frequency content. So in a waveform view, this is a time domain, meaning you're only seeing left to right what's happening from the start of the file to the end of the file. So it's a one, well, I guess two, it'd be two-dimensional because it's got a time and a what am I thinking? Not modulation. Amplitude. So it's got time and amplitude. And then in the spectrogram, you've got time, amplitude, plus you've got frequency. So it's really three-dimensional. And what's nice about this is you can very easily start to identify issues as you get more experience. That's why it's important to spend time learning how to read this. So we'll just listen to some of this stuff, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
I don't care, Keith. It's not worth it, man. Yeah.
So as we've been working on this short, which I'm going to milk for all it's worth because I don't have to ask permission to use any of this stuff. You know, this is a scene where after a fight, this character is like telling him to keep this item that they've been chasing. And if you need a practice project, this is on my website. So you can always pick this up and really like go through the whole series of these videos and follow along. But we hear some issues with this recording. One of the issues is there's some ticks. There's these transient click sounds.
Good stuff, man. I don't care, Keith.
Here's an obvious one right here, but there's all these little ones too right here. And as you spend time working with iZotope, you will figure out like where to set your amplitude. You know, this decibel slider here will make the waveform more intense the more you bring it up. And then like if you have a really loud clip, you have to bring it down. You want to get it to where there's enough contrast in the signal and noise that you can see the issues visually, because then you'll be able to just plow through and really you'll need to listen to it, but you'll be able to, without listening to it, identify where the problems are and how to deal with them. So what a lot of people will do is they'll bring a file into iZotope and let's say, well, there's a lot of ticks in this. Let me go to declick, and they'll just, you know, set their sliders where they need to be and they'll render it. So the issue with doing this method is, yeah, you've taken the clicks out, but if you listen to the actual dialogue,
I don't care, Keith. It's not worth it, man.
See that care? If I undo, watch what happens to this C. And I can tell this is a C because there's a higher frequency transient attached to it. But if I undo this processing, you'll see it's taken away quite a bit. So watch this section right here when I redo the processing. It took away some of that initial attack. So the clarity is going to suffer. So in the last stream, I talked about being precise. You know, if the letter is P, then you want to be precise with your processing. That's two P's. So the best thing to do is instead of highlighting the whole file and declicking it, just highlight where the problem is. So it does take more time. But one thing you'll also find out is back here in Pro Tools, you see the handle size is set to 2 seconds. So kind of a trick you can use for, well, how do I see where to start my cleanup is just go 2 seconds in to the file right here. See my timer, make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, my timer is at 2 seconds. So from here on, I've got to clean up until I get to 2 seconds from the end, which let's say it's about 30 seconds. So it's a pretty long clip to clean up. But the best way to deal with these kind of noises is just listen and go through, read the waveform, and just highlight the nasty stuff and process it. So you'll see I'm not hitting render over here, and I think that goes to number 2, develop a process. Everybody's going to have a different method for how they like to clean things up. The best thing I can say is learn your keyboard shortcuts, which you'll include in your process. And in iZotope, it's pretty cool that you can go to preferences, keyboard, and actually search for, you can create a preset for your own keyboard shortcuts. But like, let's say I wanted to assign declick to something on my keyboard. Right there, you can see I've got apply declick as shortcut 1. So on my keyboard, my left hand right here, I can just go, in fact, I can even show you, I think. Go back to this view. Let me bring up, do I have the fader cam? Yeah. So you should be able to see in the upper left corner of the stream, you'll kind of watch how quick I can go through and take out clicks. But the problem with using one process is it's not going to get every issue out. Like, you're going to have multiple keyboard shortcuts and you're going to have to memorize them. So the 2 I use the most are 3 actually. Yeah, let's say the 3 I use the most are declick. So I have that set to 1. Decrackle. You can see I have that set to 2. And then spectral repair, attenuate, I have set to 3. So I know 1, 2, and 3 are going to be my most used shortcuts. And I'll just listen. There's a little thump there. Another really great process to do is don't rely on the plugins at all and just do copy and paste. So copy, paste. Some more ticks down here. I can now do fill paste for those because I've grabbed some cleaner sound in my clipboard. So those are a bunch of ticks there. You can see it's removed the ticks, but it'll leave behind this digital mush, which you can then take out with spectral repair attenuate. And you don't have to take it like 100% out, but if you can get it 6 to 12 dB lower, that's going to be great.
Good stuff.
Some little tiny ticks here, which you can decrackle will sometimes work better for these. So I'm going to hit 2 and it'll take out those higher frequency ones.
Good stuff.
Now this is a tick I want to leave in. Good, 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 good. That's a very percussive sound. Your language, if it's not English, you know, it might be German or Spanish or Portuguese or Telugu, whatever your language is going to have a different combination of transient and harmonic, melodic, tonal material. And it's really important to be careful around these. You see, I have highlighted just the ticks after the G and zapped them out with declick. And I'm just going to go through, and I'm being more careful about the actual words and less careful about this fill, this room tone, ambience, movement, whatever. So I'm kind of just ham-fistedly going through and using my keyboard shortcuts. That's going to be 3, 3.
Good stuff, man.
There's a good example of this is a lavalier microphone that is taped to his body. He's on the ground. There's going to be noise. So these are easy to take out with 1. take a little bit more with 3, so I'm just bouncing back and forth between 1, 2, and 3. There's a bunch there.
Man.
So this is a tick inside the just. The J has a tiny tick. The S has a bigger tick. There's a mouth click there, which I'll take.
I don't care.
Scratchy stuff up.
I don't care, Keith. It's just not worth it, man.
So that whole run is good up until Worth It Man.
It's just not worth it, man.
There's a tiny tick on
It's not worth it, man.
And there's some there. So you just go through the whole file. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're super right, Micah. I have a gate set up on. It's a sidechain gate on my mic, and I probably have the I probably have it set to. Let me change that on the. I'll show you guys. This is good. So here's what I've got on my mic in OBS, and I'm using 2 sidechain compressors to duck my mic so that I don't have to wear headphones. So I'm going to tweak this. Thank you guys for letting me know about this. Let me know if this is better.
It's just not worth it, man.
Check 1 2, check.
Yeah.
Check 1 2, check. Is that better?
Yeah.
So I'm just going back and forth between 1 and 3.
Yeah.
That I want to keep. That's a lighter click. That's a Zippo lighter. So you get it. Like, I'm just using keyboard shortcuts where I'm not having to open the module and hit render and do. The mouse is selecting stuff. Okay, the mouse is selecting the issues, and the left hand is doing the keyboard shortcuts. So you can really just bounce back and forth between mouse and left hand. Thank you guys for helping me troubleshoot that. And it looks like we got a new member, David Brown. So welcome to the channel. Okay, so you get the idea. Like, the whole point of developing a process and using the keyboard shortcuts is to be very efficient with your work. Like, you can just breeze through stuff. And the nice thing about doing it that way versus highlighting the whole thing and using mouth declick or decrackle or whatever, the beautiful thing about that is your work is going to be leagues above somebody who is just batch processing stuff. Like, they're just decrackling or they're mouth declicking. Even with the newer tools like, Acon, all that other stuff, it's not as transparent as going through and doing it by hand. Like, and the other cool thing is an AI can easily go through and say, there are clicks in this audio, let me declick this audio, and just plow through and take everything. Maybe it'll leave some of the P's and B's alone, but it's not going to be able to replicate the thought process of, is this a good click? Is this a bad click? Because not all clicks are bad. Really good question from Paul. Do you keep the settings on your modules the same, or do you adjust depending on the material? I've found like certain settings work good for, let's say, 80% of the problems I'm faced. And then I'll tweak them when I come across a problem that isn't easily solved by the settings I have. So the nice thing about doing careful selections with declick like this is that you can really crank that thing up and have the click widening up and the sensitivity cranked up, because you're not relying on the tool to batch process an entire file. You're relying on it to do like a sniper in a video game. You're doing headshots on all these clicks. You're not just, M60 spraying at people. Like, you're really being specific about where you want to use it. So I tend to keep the settings the same, and then I'll tweak them like plosives. What I'll do for plosive, somebody said P for plosive, which is great, is I'll actually use deplosive instead for lower stuff. Like, it'll even take out clicks like this here that are down low. You'll see it'll just take those out. So thumpy stuff, boom handling noise. It's great for boom handling noise. You do have to be very careful of when you have a lower male voice, because it will, let's see if it does it here. I have deplosive set to tilde on my keyboard. Let's see. I have D plosive set to tilde on the keyboard so that I can do this. But the issue with that is it will sometime on this it doesn't, because Josh's voice is not super low, but like the show I'm working on right now, which if you have Paramount Plus, you can check it out. It's called Lioness. There's a famous actor with a really low voice, and you want to be super careful of like taking any of that richness out. So you have to be really careful about it. And yeah, Mike, you gave me this tip on the spectrogram, which I'll show you guys this. This actually really helped me the past week. It was, shoot, where is it? It's not that. Where's you can change the view of the spectrogram. Mike, remind me where this is, because dang it, where was it? I did change the view to extended log, but I forget how to do it. I think I had to look at it. Maybe is it right click? Yeah, frequency scale. So you can do this and you can really see the plosives. I found out that log was the best for me. I used to just have it set to, I think it wasn't linear. It's probably melodic. Yeah. And then the bad thing about this is all the high frequencies are super spread out. I'm not sure. Each one of these is kind of like a different weighting towards the low end. So extended log, you can really see the stuff under 50 hertz. I don't care as much. It's more like 100 hertz and under is where I find a lot of that stuff. So I still need to see up here and here, because there's tonal things like a truck backing up. That beep sound is going to be like around 1K. So I want to be able to see that stuff as well as I can see the plosives. And a lot of this stuff down here is not audible. Even on like full range monitors, you're not going to hear as much of that like 30 hertz and under stuff. Let's see. House of Jen says, do you use default colors for spectrogram view? But yeah, I just use the default colors. I think, yeah, orange and blue. It's a great contrast. Like teal and orange is the classic, Michael Bay color grade look. So there's a reason for that, because they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So you can use whatever colors are best. I just stick with the kind of standard orange and blue that iZotope is like, that's their default thing. So let me go back to my cheat sheet here. We talked about keyboard shortcuts. Set those up for your keyboard. I've got I think this is a Corsair keyboard. Let me see. Yeah, it's a Corsair keyboard, so it has these G keys on the side that I can, let me see if I can, yeah, these G1 through G6, which you can assign to different functions, which is really cool. I actually use those for Pro Tools shortcuts, not iZotope. But yeah, like if you have a Stream Deck or something like that, I've messed around with the Stream Deck software, and I know a lot of people swear by them for dialogue editing, but what it does for me is it makes it to where one of my hands has to come off the keyboard or come off the mouse, which is great if you're looking for like low weight, high rep exercise, but I'm looking for speed and efficiency. So the more time I can keep my right hand on the trackball and my left hand on the keyboard, the faster I can work through it. So all those gadgets and stuff are great. Like, to me, they're kind of just like ego stroking. Like, look at all this cool stuff I got. You can do a lot with just a keyboard and a mouse. So yeah, keyboard shortcuts are huge. Okay, so this is like where we get into how to do things fast. And I know, got a text here. I know that a lot of people who watch the stream are beginners, or they are maybe not beginners, intermediate. Like there's some super pros that will watch my channel, which I don't know why, like they already know more than I do. But if you're starting out and you're doing stuff, indie projects, things where you don't have as much time as you'd like or as much time as you need to do, high quality, like go through everything frame by frame and really scrub it precisely. If you have to cut corners, that's where knowing iZotope and knowing how to use it can really unleash the beast and make it to where you can get through, a whole feature in 5 days. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as if you're doing a feature in 8 weeks of dialogue editing, but sometimes you get that. You get the buddy, hey man, I shot this feature for 150 grand. Can you give me a festival mix? And then it's like, yeah, but what about sound editing? What about dialogue editing, sound effects? Oh yeah, that's all sound mix. You do all that stuff. Okay, so now you have to get through the dialogue edit really fast because they don't have the money to hire somebody. Or maybe you're that guy that's hired and the mixer says, man, I'm really sorry, but I've only got 5 days in the budget for this. Do what you can. Now you're in a situation where you can't spend the time to just baby every clip and get it perfectly perfectly cleaned up where everything sounds like maximum quality. And the other thing is the production sound may not warrant that type of cleanup. It might be so nasty that you have to use a module chain. So these are super powerful, but they can also be very easy to abuse. This is like giving a kid a chainsaw and saying, cut this wood up for me. Like, chances are they're going to end up minus a leg or an arm. So use this extremely carefully, use it responsibly. Having said that, make all kinds of presets for different things. So iZotope ships with their, basic voice cleanup and all this crisp drums, like all this stuff that you're never going to use. This is for like video editors, which if you're a video editor watching this, okay, go ahead, use it. Or just use the stuff that's built into your NLE. For the rest of us who are trying to do a good quality cleanup job, make your own presets, or better yet, adapt some. Like I've got some on my website. You can get, they're like $5 or $10, 50, like they're super cheap. So it'll get you started with basic cleanup stuff. And the way these modules work is you're just the chain. It's a chain of these modules on the right hand side. So any number of these you can just, I think can you drag them? You can't drag them. You hit the plus and you can decide what modules you want to use in this chain. So on mine, I've marked most of these with TB. These should match all the ones on my site. I've got AAA, which is for like really good quality. It doesn't need much. It might have a Jenny hum, and it might have some of those little crackles, that happen just as part of the recording process. Then I've got presets for boom, boom good, boom noisy, booster. Booster is a cool way to bring up low level stuff.
Yeah.
Like let's say I wanted to bring up that guttural grunt, but like I don't want to clip gain it because the noise is going to come up. Like all this noise in here, I want it to be completely static, and I just want to bring up the word. Let me find a better word.
I don't care, keep it. It's not worth it, man.
Okay, let's say I want to bring up man.
Not worth it, man.
And there's some more ticks in
Not
there.
worth it, man. Worth it, man.
Let's say I want to bring up man, and I don't want to do it with a fader because the noise floor is going to go up, and then come back down. So what you can do is dialogue isolate. Instead of, well, actually this is set both. So it's bringing the dialogue gain up 5 and the noise gain down 4. So it's actually getting you 9 dB of headroom. And then I've got the gain set up to split the difference between the two. So if I render that, it should be probably way too loud now, but the noise floor, actually, yeah, this isn't set right. I think I was tweaking this. It really needs to be like that. It needs to be 0 and -6 for it to work. So it should keep the noise floor constant, and it should...
Keep it. It's not worth it, man.
No, it actually didn't. Why did this... What did I do? Oh, ambience preservation. And then noise gain. Maybe this has to be down more. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll end up tweaking stuff, and like just leave it and it kind of keeps the preset there. Yeah, that didn't work at all. It's almost like the dialogue isolate's not working. So let me, oh, maybe that's why. I've stopped using dialogue isolate, so this might be just one of those depreciated things. Yeah, it's like not, it's also not gaining it down. But if I go to my usual preset, it actually uses a plugin.
Just not
And
worth it, man.
so you can hear like the background ambience didn't jump up as much as the dialogue did. It jumped up a tiny
I don't
bit.
care, keep it. It's just not worth it, man. Yeah.
And I can do the same for this. So you can do this kind of stuff. You can also just use this for a clip gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better example.
Yeah.
And then undo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So work your chains. Like the other stuff you can do is if you have plugins that you like to use, you can include them in the chain. Like, let's see, what else do I got? Foley and ADR. This is like when you record Foley and ADR in your mix room. So it's got a little bit of dehum, decrackle, and spectral denoise. I've got Noisy Lav, has the most stuff going on. It's got a dehum, decrackle, deplosive for those mic thumps that are like body thumps, derustle, and then a little bit of Acon digital extract. So thumpy, it's got de-wind is actually really good to take out that kind of like if people are running with their lav. And then what else? Quick batch process. I did this for like, I think a picture editor sent me a bunch of audio and they're like, I just need this leveled and like a little bit of noise taken out so we can hear what they're saying. I've got settings for a plastic bag, a low plant mic in a car, like down by the kick panel area or the center console. And then, yeah, you can just create like any kind of module chain you want. And it's going to help you get through those quick turnaround, speed over quality type of projects. So, okay, let me just go back through some questions real quick. Paul says, one challenge I have is finding the visual representation of the problem. Sometimes it's obvious, but other times I just can't find it. Does it take lots of practice? It takes so much practice to identify that stuff, and there's no shortcut for it other than just doing it. Transient things like this are the easiest to identify because they show up as just big vertical spikes. And then breaths, they kind of look like a little ghost signal like this. This is a breath. And then you'll learn to read words too. Like these are S's.
I don't care, keep it.
Any of this stuff that you see in like 3 to 15K is going to be sibilants or air coming out. It's really nice when this stuff is like recorded on a lav. A lot of lavs are muffled because they're buried. So if you got this kind of material on a lav, it's great. You'll also be able to identify like scratchy clothing noise. It looks just like a breath, but it's going to be underneath because people can't breathe while they talk. They breathe in between the words and there's air coming out while they talk, but they can't do that while they talk. You know, voice is monophonic. So anytime you see something that looks like a breath inside here, that's going to be usually clothing noise or somebody breathing off mic, or some other like kind of higher frequency sound. Generator tone is going to be just a solid line like this all the way through. There's not going to be any of that in this short because we shot it outside and we didn't use any generators. But on real movies, they're going to have generator tones. Often it's going to be multi harmonics of it, which you can select with this tool. So you just end up getting adept at reading the spectrogram by just doing it, and like in your mind will create a library of what the sounds look like. And that's the coolest thing about iZotope RX Advanced is being able to see the sound. That is the power of this program, and Spectral Layers does that too. I just haven't had time to dig into it, and it's another, you know, $300 I got to spend. So this is what I got, and I've learned how to use it to the max. So yeah, it just takes practice to identify it. We got a super chat, Sounds of Stories. Awesome. And a member, awesome. Double awesome. So thanks for that. So we're going to spend some time on this question here. It says, good morning, Tom and crew. I have a question, but it's a bit lengthy. I'm still somewhat of a beginner with this stuff, so I might not have the right terminology, but how do I do a better job of eliminating fuzz around the dialogue? Super great question. Something I've had to spend a lot of time doing in like the projects I'm working on now. So let me see if I can find some fuzzy stuff here. I think this might have some. No, I don't need to save it. So you see this is recorded lower, so I need to bring up this. This is about the contrast level I like.
Hey man, you have it?
Okay, so here's some great fuzz right here. Even though this sound isn't dialogue, this is a box, the prop, it's a scrape. That's a really nice example. There's a little bit.
Hey man,
actually, this might be better because this is on dialogue.
hey man.
So just this hey man, if we're gonna take the fuzz off of this,
Hey man.
the very first thing I would do is identify the ticks and deal with them because they're super easy. So there's one right here, and there's one right here.
Hey man.
There's some up here too. So I might highlight this and just declick, or you could decrackle. The kind of decrackle isn't as strong with the settings I have. So I really use decrackle for like the super minor stuff that you kind of can only hear with headphones.
Hey man.
Okay, so now we just have this fuzz on the line, and the best way I've found to deal with this is actually to use a tiny, tiny bit of broadband noise reduction. I used to use D-Russell, which you can use. That's this guy. I have that mapped to 6 on my keyboard, but it kind of just lowers the ambient sound around it. Even if like this is up, it just kind of lowers the ambient sound. So the very best thing I've used for this is figure out the frequency range that the fuzz is in, and then you can use dialogue isolate for this, like very subtly, -4 maybe or so, and it should lower. Like here's the fuzz right here. Let's see what it does. So the problem with dialogue isolate is it lowers the ambient sound and also kind of dulls the dialogue. It takes out the high frequency. So if this is what you have to work with,
Amen.
It's better.
Amen.
It's not as fuzzy. It doesn't have this fuzz there. But you can also use any of the new fancy whiz-banger noise reduction plugins, which tend to do a better job. Like this is Acon Digital Extract. And you want, again, use very conservative settings for this. So I'm going to have this set to like -6. And you see it lowered the fuzz, but kept this breath, this air coming out of his mouth.
Amen.
So there's still a tiny bit left. The cool thing about doing it specifically this way, like not just whole file, but like just highlighting the noise, is you can slowly hone in on as it reduces, like to really get it out. Now I'm just going to spectral repair the last little bit.
Amen. You have.
So it's gone.
Amen. 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 Amen.
And if we go back to the initial state,
Amen.
so it's a big difference. It hasn't really lowered the the breathiness of the audio. It hasn't dulled the audio beyond use.
Amen.
It's still there, and the fuzz is basically gone. So yeah, whiz banger. That's what I call these fancy AI dialogue plugins. If you don't have that, I can show you another way to get this out. Let's go back to after we took the clicks out. Use the history pane. You can't see. Let me turn off my video capture. Okay. You can use this history pane down here to go back. You know, like let's say you want to just go back to where you took the clicks out and that fuzz is still there. Now there's another way to do this, which is spectral repair or copy paste. You can grab a piece that doesn't have that fuzz, copy it and paste it. The problem that you're going to be left with is you're going to have to smooth this with spectral repair. You might also have to use spectral repair replace a little bit to just get it normal shape and it'll do these weird patterns, which are not
Amen.
good.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
So you don't have to use the fancy whiz-banger dialogue reduction or dialogue noise reduction plugins. You can do it with spectral repair and just good old copy paste.
Amen. Amen.
It actually sounds a little better than with the plugin. So is it just me, or there's a significant delay when you press play? I don't know. You guys let me know. It seems like it's okay, but I did test, like I recorded some clips to see if there was any, because I had to delay the mic because the capture card, but the capture card isn't capturing my computer. The computer is just it's a straight screen capture with the audio.
Amen.
Yeah, it seems like it's all synced up and everything.
Amen.
Okay. This is good, and thank you guys for letting me know, because like I said, this is kind of a new setup for me. I tried to do it so that this view was a little crisper and like full HD, and didn't look so muddy, because I had somebody comment, because I was using a basically USB connection on the GH5, and it's maxed out at 720, so yeah, it doesn't really look that great. Okay, so let me just go through. This is probably good. I think I went through, I hit on this multiple times. Use responsibly, like that goes for all of these modules and different techniques, is knowing when to use them, how to use them, and not overusing them. The very worst thing you could do is overprocess the audio in the name of, you know, cleaning it up. You can clean it up too much. And I hear it on big budget stuff, like shows that my wife and I like to watch. I will hear just the overuse of these tools, and I understand why, because I've been in those situations. But most of the time, on union projects, there's usually enough time to do a good job, and on a lot of indie projects, there's enough time to do a good job. So don't just get in the habit of batch processing stuff, you know, like decrackle or declick or deplosive, like all this, like highlighting the whole clip and just taking, you know, stuff out, and now dialogue isolate. Like you end up with something that sounds so fake and like processed that it's just, I'll show you what I'm talking about, because I mean, even maybe not dialogue isolate, but let's just use the dialogue extract, and let's take out the tonal noise, and like listen to the difference now.
Amen. You have it? Yeah.
It sounds watery, it sounds artifacty, processed. These are with conservative settings on the plugin. Like, I mean, maybe not super conservative, 6 dB, but I've seen people do this like -10, -12, and I'm not like, you know, I'm not like super hammering it with any of these settings. These are like decrackles at 2.5. You know, even like derustle, I've seen people use that. So let's hit it with that. And now let's use, how about we do spectral denoise, because that's always good. Adaptive mode. We'll just do a little bit on this. We'll do 4. And, you know, I've seen people clean up the audio so much that.
Amen. You have it?
No. To me, that sounds awful. And I wouldn't let that come out of my studio. Like, I don't want my name attached to stuff that sounds like that. So, yeah. Okay. More questions. For tonal and harmonic problems, is dehum the module to use? It's going to totally depend. If it's throughout like the whole scene or whole clip, then you can use dehum. If it just comes and goes, like truck beeps are a good example, you know, like boop, 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 that kind of thing. The best thing I found for that is highlighting just the beep and using deconstruct and turn the tonal down. Like, don't turn it -infinity, but like -20. So think of also noise reduction this way. What's the name of what you're doing? It's noise reduction. It's not noise removal, it's noise reduction. So the goal of any process you do is to just push that noise, push it down into the mud, into the ambient sound of what's going on, because removing it will take too much away. So just think of it reducing it. You're not trying to remove the noise, you're trying to reduce it. And really, you're just reducing it to the point where it becomes either unobtrusive or you can't hear it. It's still technically there. Like if you zoomed way in and blew up the waveform to like, or the spectrogram to where you're seeing, like it's like 120 dB, you're still going to see little remnants. Like here's some clicks. This waveform, the the bottom part of the scale is 144 dB and the top is 92 dB. So no one's ever going to crank this up this loud. So you don't have to worry about that. You just have to get the noise to where it is managed and it is reduced and it doesn't take away from the story. That's the most important thing. Okay. So yeah, so dehum works for like generator hum or something through the whole scene. Refrigerators, and the nice thing about dehum is it works great in adaptive and dynamic mode. I've had bad luck in static mode. Like it just comb filters really bad. So dynamic mode with these specific settings, the sensitivity, the bands, the filter Q, these are the settings I use. So sensitivity is 2.4, bands is 460, filter Q is 1260. I'll tweak those as I go through, but generally that works for most of the problems. And I don't do this if I'm not mixing or it hasn't specifically been requested by the mixer. So I leave the hums in and I just make the edit work with them. But dehum is good for anything tonal that like goes through the whole scene. It doesn't really work for Doppler carbis. I will paint those out with the paintbrush tool like this, and use either spectral repair, deconstruct, or sometimes, Acon or a different noise reduction tool. That's like, to me, been the biggest game changer, and I hate using that word. I shouldn't say that. The biggest improvement to my workflow is using plugins on stuff like this. Not highlighting the whole thing and hammering it, but like being real particular about like, okay, so this here, it's all messed up because I'm using the paintbrush tool. Like this here, dang it, now I got to deselect. And using the plugin just for that, like that kind of stuff is cool. You can like really take out impossible things like somebody pounding on a table. You can take it out using a plugin in like super specific selections instead of the whole thing. So can iZotope Monster win the best Halloween dress up? That's great. Paul, you always bring the jokes. Okay. House of Jen says, would dehum work for things like aircon since it oscillates? Yeah, it will. Anything that's tonal, it'll take it out, but be careful because it's going to possibly bite into the voice. So just listen to it, A/B it. Like after you do a process, hit undo a couple times or go back here to your history. I gotta turn my face off again. Your history panel in iZotope is over here. Go back to the initial state and just check your work, because you'll get so focused on the noise, and you'll blah 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 go through, hit it all, take all the noise out, and then when you go back and listen to it, make sure you flip back to the initial state and make sure you're not taking out too much, or that you've taken out some of the life of the audio by processing. And sometimes it's good to leave the clicks and stuff in. Like if it's a army movement like gear, like cut that to PFX or split it off. But like sometimes you need to keep the ticks in, or other things like mouth ticks. Like if you see a person, like if they're talking and they're thinking, they go like that. If you take that click out, you're gonna see their lips move and not hear anything. So you don't have to take every single click out of there. Like, you just be thoughtful of what's needed for the story and for the performance, and then take out the stuff that takes away from the performance. Okay, so more questions. Reducing, not removing. Yes, that is like, as I've gotten older, it says audio's delayed when you're full screen. Okay, this is the, yeah, this is, let me check my latency settings, advanced audio properties. Yeah, I might have, it might vary with the stream, I don't know. Yeah, so just, try to be mindful of processing too much, and like do not take out too much of the noise. So Paul says, what's your chain to get clean dialogue without it being over processed? I have a preset that I've used for stuff on like where I have to batch process, which I really don't like those jobs. I try not to. So I have this module chain and I'll turn stuff off. Like maybe I'll just start with decrackle. And this I think I used for something where I just had to blow through. I think it was a documentary actually. And they told me they were going to have the dialogue edited when they sent it to me to mix, and that wasn't the case. I knew it was going to go that way. And so I had to basically edit while I mixed. And so decrackle with very conservative settings, and then I used, noise reduction, very, very low settings. I varied this based on which interview it was. But then I've got these other modules that are off: derustle, deplosive, declick, dewin, dehum, and you can just turn them on and off. And the cool thing about this too is you can process a bunch of files. Like you could take all these and just send them individual clip by clip, stack them up, hit it with the module chain, and it's going to take a while because it's, it's a lot of stuff. I can, while I wait for this to go, the more stuff you have in your chain, the slower this composite process is going to go. And it maxes out, I think, 32 files in iZotope 10. So send it back. Tab. Sending back is another good preset to have. Render it, and then bam, your stuff's cleaned up. So that's kind of the quick way to do it. Okay, how good is iZotope RX Advanced for broadband noise reduction? It is pretty good. It's okay. Like the problem with most of the modules in iZotope for broadband reduction is that you can just hear them working. So I would say for if you do use them, just use them really gently. Spectral denoise and voice denoise are the two that are good for broadband reduction. Dialogue isolate tends to do weird stuff, like you can hear some gating and breathing going on, so I would say stay away from this. But the other thing you can do is just use a tiny bit of each one, like maybe 2 dB of this, 3 dB of spectral denoise. And voice denoise is best used as an insert in Pro Tools. So I would say leave as much of the noise reduction as you can for the mix, because you're not going to be able to make those decisions until you have all the other tracks. Okay. Does interpolate work for clicks during speech? It does. What I found interpolate the best for is for dropouts. But it only works on very short selections. Like I'll show you. This is going to be kind of low. I'll put a dropout in. So I'll cut this. Ooh, that's right. How do you actually delete it? Is it backspace? Delete? Nope. Does a time deletion. How am I going to cut this out? Because cut does like a time cut in there, which is not what we want. Oh, I can copy and paste. Okay, so there should be a dropout now. Yeah. So here's a dropout. So you can highlight that and do interpolate, and it should repair it.
Said you needed money.
Perfect. So interpolate is good for little short dropouts like that. Okay. Do you often ask for denoise dialogue from a dialogue editor? Sometimes unpleasantly surprised when I play back denoised dialogue on a decent set of speakers. Yes, I do not want denoised dialogue from a dialogue editor. If a dialogue editor is cutting for me, I want them to send me raw, basically raw tracks that are not cleaned up other than ticks, pops, bumps, thumps, that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, Ivan asked this earlier. Sorry I didn't get to this. Using iZotope, how would you deal with audio that has a lot of reverb? There's, I think the D-reverb module's not great. I've kind of backed off of using D-reverb stuff and just using broadband noise reduction. But you can, like, it has a D-reverb module. Again, all these, like, you really have to kind of go light on it. Otherwise, you'll start to hear it. So just use it very gently. I don't generally do a lot of reverb reduction. And honestly, the like newer dialogue focused noise reduction tools like Acon and Hush, they do a better job of reducing reverberation. Okay. Is dialogue contour working for you? Yes, it works. It works, but it can add some thumps and ticks and pops. So I will use that on docs, interviews, documentaries, interviews a lot. Yeah, so it does definitely help. It doesn't fix a Frankenbite, but it'll make it more palatable. So I think that's it. You guys said there was like, the sync was off on this view. So I'm just doing this so I can check. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for helping me troubleshoot this stream and checking this out. And hopefully you got some tips on how to be faster with your iZotope dialogue cleanup. We talked about learning the program, especially how to read the spectrogram, developing a process, keyboard shortcuts, plugin chains for emergency use only, and then using all the different modules responsibly. So yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Happy Halloween if you celebrate that.